First video of SuperCoach 2023. Keen for this year. The motivation's there. Of course, the season hasn't started yet. We still have unlimited trades, and there's no bad luck or bad scoring to hurt us just yet. But after how last year went down, hoping for a redemption year. Pretty glad I didn't record the last few weeks of the 2022 SuperCoach season. We stayed ranked around the 20k mark, nothing really changed. Just wasn't a good year. But from a footy fan perspective, not just SuperCoach, it was an unreal season, seeing Geelong win the premiership, Joel Selwood retiring as a premiership captain, Paddy Dangerfield winning his first premiership. So it was still a real enjoyable year of footy despite how the SuperCoach season went. But we move on to 2023, and this is the team. It feels Guns and Rookies-ish with a hint of mid-price madness in there. Definitely not set in stone. The pracky matches will give us a much better idea of how we want our team to look. I'll start off with the midfield because I feel like I'm set with that group. Our premiums, we got 4 of them. Rory Laird, Clayton Oliver, Tuke Miller, Marcus Bontempelli. There aren't many teams going around with Laird, which is fair enough. He's the only one over 700k. And I guess in my team's context, the extra 70 to 100k that you get going down to a McRae, Cripps, Parrish or Steele could be real beneficial elsewhere. Even the extra 30k going down to Neil. But I'm more than happy to pay up for Laird. Can't question his ability to fill up the stat sheet, obviously. He wins you contested ball, gets cheapies, lays a bunch of tackles, and he's getting better at hitting the scoreboard. He's definitely someone you want by the end of the season. And when it comes time to upgrade, what's a reasonable price for him to drop down to? And do you think it happens? That's something to consider in my opinion. Last season I did it with Clary, didn't start him assuming he'd get tagged, which he did, dropped to 60 and thought, great, we'll pick him up at sub 600 in a couple of weeks. And then a couple of weeks later he drops a 168 against Richmond and that was it. Had to bring him in and he was still around 620k. And I think I was planning to bring him in the week after, but that 160 changed all the plans, so you just never know with these types of players. Of course you can make that argument with any premium I don't have, like Lachie Neale for example. He could get tagged early on and then drop a 180 the next week. So I guess that's the risk you take with whichever premium you don't start out of the big guns. But you can't have them all, unfortunately. Clary, obviously there's question marks surrounding his thumb. We'll see how his next month goes, what new reports pop up, how he looks in pracky matches. I still intend on starting him at this stage. Tuke, we can go on about his two-way running, work rate, all that stuff. He's a gun. Very, very tiny chance I could still swap him out for a Neil, McRae or Steele, but that's just because they're all as good as each other. And it's just options to consider because it's so tough to pick mid-premiums these days. But I don't think I'll make that change. Like I said before, pretty set on this midfield group. And to round out the mid-premiums, we have the Bont pretty much locked into the team. I think in the past I would have had doubts on his role, like how much time would he spend up forward. But I think he's proven for a while now that he's him. Last season only went under the ton 3 times, only went under 90 once. His 2021 without Dunkley, rounds 7 to 17, was next level. The consistency is there, the ceiling is there. I got no doubts on the Bont. And I just think when it comes to picking mid-premiums, you got to have at least one from the best scoring midfields. I think it's safe to say the Dogs and Ds are that. From the Ds, most would pick Oliver over Petrarca. It's a bit tougher on the Dogs because McRae's so good, but I've got Bont over him because of ceiling. At M5 and 6 we have a couple of mid-prices who will be in the engine room racking up the pill. Jacob Hopper, an injury-riddled 2022. New club, straight into the guts. I'm confident in his ability to make cash for us. Majority of the comp have him. He did suffer a minor injury setback, I believe, today. So we'll keep an eye on that. Jimmy Warple, it's been a tough period for him, not getting much mid-time. But Mitchell and O'Meara are gone now. He should be right back in the middle. We've seen glimpses of what he can do when he gets the chance in that midfield. So I'm confident in a bounce back year for Warple. And the rookies, some are locks, some are placeholders. Others, there's been talk about that they're looking good for round 1, like Mackenzie, Weddle, Gimby should play round 1 too. We'll get a better idea after everyone plays their practice matches. We'll move to the Rucks because that's pretty straightforward. I think English and Marshall are the two most owned Rucks. Marshall with Ryder retiring, it's his time now. And English, we saw his ceiling last season, wins so much of the footy for a ruckman. The one downside to him is that he's injury prone. He's already suffered a minor injury setback during this pre-season. So it is concerning, but I think his popularity should negate that risk to an extent. We'll move up to defense. Not 100% on this group yet, but at D1 we have Jordan Dawson. Like Laird, small bit of FOMO not owning him last season, and he really showed his ceiling late last year. He's not set, still deciding between him, Stewart and Doherty. Doherty's been training in the mids, always been solid in defense, but we saw what he could do in the midfield late last year, albeit a small sample size. And you got to take into consideration the injuries Carlton have right now. And Stewart really showed his ceiling last season as well. 3 scores over 160. 2 of those were in Geelong, where in both those games he had 40 touches and over 10 marks. They don't play in Geelong until round 6, so that's something to consider. That and just teams giving him more attention because they know he's capable of games like that. So I do like Dawson out of the 3 as of right now. At D2 we have Hayden Young. Quite risky, banking on him to be a breakout premium. By all reports he's the main man in that Freo defense now, taking the majority of kick-ins. He showed late last year glimpses of what his ceiling can be. And I think he can put it all together this season. And then we have Yo at D3, a very risky but popular mid-pricer, which should negate the risk somewhat. He's had a great pre-season playing midfield and half-back, also taking kick-ins. Obviously, the biggest risk with him is that he's made of glass, super injury prone. When will Adam Simpson want to rest him, and how early might that be? Those are things to consider with him. But we don't doubt his footballing ability, and that's why so many people have him. And the forward line, Dunkley locked in, no questions asked. Rosie, bit of an interesting one. I do have a hint of bias towards picking him. He was really my only bright spot during the back end of last season. If he continues that role that he played during the back end of 2022, then I've got no problems picking him. He can win plenty of the ball, hits the scoreboard. He's a big game player too. And Taranto, new club, he'll be straight into the middle at Richmond. So I'm fine picking him. Oscar Allen missed the whole of last year, one of West Coast's most promising players. Hopefully he can hit the scoreboard plenty to carry that cash gen for us. Toby McLean, hopefully he can find his footing in the Dogs Best 22 again. He had some good moments in the senior side, but been pushed out as of late, so we'll see how he looks during the pracky matches. Josh Bruce, playing as a defender now, so we'll see how he looks. Definitely not locked in, but one to keep an eye on. And Ben King, I think what we hope from key forwards is just that spike game to carry the cash gen, so similar to Oscar Allen. Hope that's the case. But that will do it. That's the team. Probably changes a bunch after the practice matches. But yeah, let me know your thoughts if you have any, and see you in the next one.